we can teach our kids is that you're the next generation. It's like Elie Wiesel said about the Holocaust. What's the Holocaust Memorial Day, right? He said the most important thing about Holocaust education, let's just use that as a metaphor for this, is the next generation. Because if you don't pass on the next generational information, it's going to be lost. So he said the key about the Holocaust is so it happens to be true about Judaism in general. If you don't figure out how to keep the next generation activated and alive and connected, which is probably why we schlep a grandparents to the Pesach Seder table and try to make it a family event, and it is a family event, then you're wasting your entire time. And that's also very, very important. You see a very interesting hint to this. See a very interesting hint to this in the conversation between Moshe Rabbeinu and Pharaoh. And what's that? And Paro, what's that? So Moshe Rabbeinu says, we have to leave for a few days in order to worship our God. He says, who's going to go? So he says, well, our men and our women and our children and our babies, the Tapchem as well. And Pharaoh's like, what are you talking about? The Gevarim can go, the men can go, but you're not taking any women or children. And the answer is, why not? What's he concerned about? Or what's his question? So on the surface, you think, well, if he lets the wife and kids go, they won't come back. But he held back their cattle. So that could have been enough collateral for them to want to actually come back. And he also threatens, if you don't come back, we're going to bring you back, which he actually tried to do. But I read something fascinating recently, that actually it wasn't just a situation of don't take them because you won't come. It was actually don't take them because why would you take them? What's it? What are you doing when you go? We're going to worship our God. Pharaoh was like, why do you need your wife and kids to worship God? It always was that when it came to Avodah Zarah and any form of worship, it was basically an adult male activity. They ran it all. The women and kids had nothing to do with it. They weren't part of the process of spirituality. I know it sounds weird to you now, right? Because what are you talking about? Yeah, it was a male-dominated reality for thousands of years. Come along Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says to Paro, no, I think you're misunderstanding. It's all about the family. So what did he do? He brought a Korban Pesach. What's a Korban Pesach? The Paschal lamb. They brought this lamb, which, by the way, as a side point, the Egyptians used to worship. They worshiped the sheep. What did we do to their God? We caught it, kept it for 3 days to make sure that it was pure, killed it, took the blood, sprinkled it on the door frame, and then we ate it. We ate their God. We had God burger. Actually, not God burger. It was actually God on the shpud, on the spit. It had to be complete. You couldn't break the bones. You couldn't mix it up. Everyone had to know you're eating their gods. Right? One of the great miracles was that they saw us doing that, and they weren't allowed to attack us. That's why you have the special holiday of Shabbat HaGadol is actually to commemorate that miracle. They weren't able to attack us. Who comes to that meal? Is it just the males? Like everyone's going to stay home. You can have leftover pizza from last night. No. Who's there? It's a family meal. So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to them, I think you're misunderstanding. When it comes to worshiping the true God of Israel, it's not you just turn up and just bring the males with you and have a nice party, all right, and then you come back the next morning and like, hey, how was worship? How was Avodah Zarah? For us, it's a family thing. So every single Pesach Seder, from the very first one to this one, it's always family. It's always talking to kids. This was something that Egypt could not figure out. Pharaoh could not understand this concept that kids, wives, daughters, sons are an integral part of our worshiping, of our connection to the God of Israel. He wants everyone involved. Everyone involved. There's many stories you can tell about. There's one famous story of a woman who went to see, it's said in the name of Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch. I'm not sure, but if you read his writings, it kind of fits into his style, so it probably was him. And she went up to him, and she said, listen, I want to know when to start educating my child in Jewish knowledge. And he said, well, how old is your child? He said, my child is 5 years old. And suppose he jumped up and said, you're 5 years too late. It starts at ground zero. At ground zero. Okay, they're not obligated mitzvah because they're below bar or bat mitzvah. That's not the point. There's still an osmosis that needs to be taken in. There's a very famous story in the Gemara. I think It may have been Bruria who brought her child to the Bet Knesset and the Bet Midrash, a baby. And they would say, well, what are you doing over here? Why are you bringing the baby in? She says, because my child's going to learn. Your child's going to learn. It's like, I don't know, it's a 2-month-old. It's still hearing it. Its soul understands and it's accepting the information. It's being downloaded without you even realizing. Just the atmosphere itself. So it's not a matter of smart kids understanding Torah. The Torah is not given to smart people, not just for adults, it's for everyone at their level. Depends which son you are, where you are in life, but it's all going to be downloaded. So we always see children. I mentioned actually this week, I spoke about this. I said that's why the most important role in the synagogue is someone's got to say it. You want to say the rabbi, right? Candyman is the right answer. The Candyman is the greatest mitzvah. My father, should live and be well, I mentioned this week, actually is the Candyman. And you need a backup Candyman as well. Second in command. So when he's away, someone takes over. The Chazon Ish was asked, if he wasn't the great rabbi that he was, what job would he have done? And he thought about it and said, I'd be the Candyman in synagogue. Beautiful, right? He says that's what it's all about. It's all about next generation. That's the key. Passing on the Masorah. And that's why I know it's difficult. And I know I'm a rabbi of a synagogue, part-time as well. And kids come in, they make noise, but that's what we're there for. And it's annoying and frustrating, and you want to pray, and you can hear babies crying and stuff. But that's just part of who we are. They're part of the process. On Pesach, we double down on that, and we make them the focal point of the Pesach Seder. We talk to them, we address them, we force them to ask questions, because that's how you build wisdom, by making them ask questions. Questions are the foundation.